Hello and welcome to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, oxygenaddict.com, Bikehouse, that's wearebikehouse.co.uk, and triathlonbox.co.uk. Now then, this week a bit of excitement, a break from the usual schedule. We don't have Helen Murray because she's over on her holidays and racing over in Ayia Napa, so we've drafted in super sub number one, Joe Skipper, to co-host. How you doing, Joe?
I'm really good, thanks, Rob. Cheers for getting me back on the show.
It's a pleasure. We had a lot of good comments about you last time. People like having you on, and Helen should be very nervous for her seat in the long term. Oh, buddy, so how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. Just training hard really for the upcoming races.
Good. You've been out this morning already?
Yeah, I went for a swim. Taking it a bit easier today because I had quite a tough weekend where I raced on the Saturday and the Sunday, so not doing a massive amount today, and then back on it again tomorrow.
Nice. I saw you did you do a 20-mile run or something yesterday? Is that right?
Yeah, Wyndham 20-mile running race.
Very good. How'd you get on?
Oh yeah, I got the win, but I'd have liked to have gone a bit faster really, but I think it was I did the time trial on the Saturday and my legs were quite heavy. But yeah, it was a brilliant training session because I wouldn't have gone that hard by myself.
I'm sure, mate. Yeah, good stuff. And how long was your time trial on Saturday?
20 miles as well. So 2 20-milers, one on the bike, one on foot.
Milers. How did you get on the bike time trial?
I got second by 5 seconds.
Oh, gutted.
I know. I got a rematch with him on Sunday, so I can't wait to have another crack at trying to beat him. It's so frustrating.
I bet it is, man. Did you know where he was or not?
No, you've got literally no idea.
No idea.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to having another rematch I broke the course record as well, which was his old course record. So I thought I could tell it was quite fast conditions, but I thought I might have it. But yeah, it turns out I didn't. And but yeah, on next week I'm definitely gonna be pushing hard to make amends for Saturday.
You're gonna go back and have another crack at him, are you?
Definitely.
That's good to hear, mate. Good stuff. Well, listen, let's do a little bit of news and results and do some catching up from what's been going on from around the world. So I think first place we've got to go to really is Oceanside. That's the one really big race for this weekend. Oceanside 70.3 over in California, where your old mate Lionel Sanders basically laid it down and took the win, didn't he?
Oh, he absolutely smashed it. Like in the half Ironmans, he's absolutely unbelievable. It's a shame actually that Frodeno wasn't racing because I think that Lionel would have had him on Saturday.
You think he'd have taken him down this year, do you?
Yeah, I think he would because he can ride up to him on the bike, and if you read a lot of his website, he's changed a lot of his run training now. Whereas last year, I think he got quite bogged down on doing a lot of his training at Ironman pace. Whereas now he's gone back to doing what he did before, where he was just training to above 70.3 pace and to get as fast as possible. And he did a cracking run on Saturday. He did a 1:11, but if you look back to 2014, he ran under 1:10 3 times, I think. So he's
quite staggering, isn't it?
Yeah, he's going to be getting faster and faster, and he's done like aero testing on the bike, and he's using a lot better equipment. Whereas before he would use like winter tires and stuff on his bike because he was worried about puncturing. So yeah, he's improving all the time physically and with equipment wise.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, to be able to run a comfortable 1:11 off the bike, that's some real leg speed, that, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I'm looking at a picture of it now on the slow twitch ring. I don't think it was comfortable though.
No, that picture that doesn't look like he's very comfortable at all.
No, that was just where he's overhauled Drites, wasn't it? So he'd just taken the lead. So I think he's probably putting a bit of a surge in there.
Yeah, and I think it shows a lot of confidence in his running now as well. The fact that he said he rode up to the group and he stayed with the group and let Drites go off the front and then sort of knew he was going to chase him down on the run, whereas last year absolutely blitzed it on the bike, didn't he? And basically left his beans out on the bike course.
He's a 30-minute 10K runner, and he's done that he's done them in training, like in the races, but like in big training blocks. I've seen on his blog that he's run 30 minutes and stuff, and he's run some 65-minute half marathons. Like
I didn't realise he was as quick as that. That's mind blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, he's run a few like 65s and 66-minute half marathons, and that was like 2-3 years ago. So he is a quick runner. Yeah, 1:11 for him probably is pretty comfortable if he gets off the bike feeling pretty good.
Yeah, wow, good stuff. All right then, so full-on results here from the race. Then Lionel Sanders takes it out in 3:51 from Andreas Dreitz, who was about 30 seconds back, and Tim Reed in third. But it was a stacked field. In fourth, we had Andy Potts, we had a Nico Larnos in fifth, Jesse Thomas in sixth, Trevor Wirtel, Sam Appleton, Jordan Rapp down in 10th as well. So the top 10 there are all proper quality athletes, aren't they? It's not a sort of easy Tin Cup win, that one.
Yeah, and you've got Sebastian Kienle, who's not on there as well. I think he was about 12th. I think he was 12th overall.
Yeah, he got a flat, I think, on the bike I read somewhere.
Oh, right. And Matt Hansen as well was 11th. So, yeah, and there's a few others who aren't even on there as well who are really good athletes. So, yeah, that was absolutely stacked field.
Yeah, full on stuff. And then over in the ladies' race, we had Heather Wirtel take it out. I think my pre-race prediction, I thought Heather Jackson was going to take this again, but it looks like Heather Wirtel, because she raced last weekend, didn't she, Heather Wirtel? She won 70.3 somewhere else last weekend. I'm sure she did.
Yeah, I think she did because I think Trevor raced as well. Was it in Mexico? Was that?
It was the one Helen did. Yeah.
And she won that.
That's full on, isn't it? Going back to back 70.3s, man. I usually can't walk until the Thursday after a 70.3 race.
Yeah, that's pretty. To back that up, especially in this field, because this one was the stronger one as well. But I think her cycling's really improved. I think she was strong on the bike, but her cycling seems like she's absolutely smashing it. She's quite powerful, isn't she? She's quite tall, long levers, not bigger than some of the other women, but muscly. So I think she can just put out a hell of a lot of power and these courses really suit her. And then she's a good runner as well. So once she gets into the lead, she's always going to be hard to take.
Yeah. Full on race there then. 4:16 from Heather Wirtel. Caroline Steffen in second. Good to see her putting a decent result back on the board as well. She kind of faded away a bit to the back end of last year, hadn't she?
Yeah, she has. Yeah, that's a really good result for her.
And then Heather Jackson took third last year's. I think she's had the last 2 wins actually in a row. And then Holly Lawrence from GB in fourth. I think she was fourth last year or third last year.
Third last year. Yeah, and then fourth this year. And I think that she would have been, looking at what time she did on the run, she might be a bit disappointed on that because I think she's a better runner than what she managed to do on that race. So she'll be looking at that thinking that she knows that she can do better. And I think she'd like to have been more amongst the top 3 again.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, she's only young, so that's a really good result.
Yeah, and it's good to see she's swimming well as well. She led the pack out again, so good performance from her overall. I think she might be a bit disappointed in it, but still fourth in a field like that, you can't complain with it. She's ahead of Camilla Pedersen. She's ahead of Mary Beth Ellis. So good result all around. Fair play, Holly. Well done, mate.
Yeah, well done, Holly.
Good one. Right, moving over then to the World Cup race, which was down in New Zealand at New Plymouth. We'll go with the ladies first because it's the first sort of real showing we've seen of Jorgensen coming back this year, isn't it?
Yeah, and she shows that she's starting where she left off last year as well.
She just looks so quick, man. That photo on Slow Twitch, she looks like a track runner. She's so lean and muscular. Yeah,
I just think it's going to be so hard for them to beat her in the Olympics because she's making the front pack, isn't she? Consistently now, every time. The only way they're going to beat her on that course is if they drop her on the bike because none of them can run. I don't think can take her on the run.
15:54 off the bike is real serious running, isn't it?
Yeah, that's going.
It really is, man. It really is. It's put her 30 seconds clear of anybody else in the pack. So I can't see anybody, bar an injury. It's hard to see anybody touching her this year, isn't it?
And she said as well that she didn't think she was going to run very quick because she hasn't done any. She's only just started doing speed work as well. Before the race, pre-race, she said that she doesn't think that she's not expecting to be in that great a form because she's only just started doing a bit more speed in her run training.
It's going to break your heart if you're coming up against her in her first race of the season and she's running sub 16 and doesn't think that she started a proper run training yet.
Yeah, the only thing that could mess her up is if she gets an injury. I think all she's got to do is just make sure that she can keep her training consistent and get to the start line healthy for the Olympics, and it's going to be very tough for them to beat her.
She doesn't need to do any speed work, mate. She's already 30 seconds clear of everybody over 5k.
Yeah, that's what you think. That's what you'd think, wouldn't you, from looking at that? is it more of a risk? Like, is there more to risk than there is to gain from her if she really does push it hard? But then you've got the Olympics. People are always willing to take the risk, aren't they? And if you don't, and that's the thing, like that, you've only got if you can keep it consistent and you've taken the risk, you could take her down on the one day that matters. So
Yeah, because that happened to what happened at London? Not London, the year before, the Olympics before. Who am I thinking of? Was it Gomez ended up in fourth?
yeah,
Wasn't it? It wasn't. It was Beijing, where Gomez ended up fourth, and he basically dragged three guys along with him the whole way. And usually you'd have thought it'd have dropped them, but actually, with it being the Olympics, stuck with him.
and then they did him at the end.
Yeah, interesting. I can't see it happening with Jorgensen though, man. She's so far clear of everybody else. But still, time will tell, won't it?
What happened with Paula Radcliffe in the marathon though? A couple of times.
Yeah.
She was like expected as like an easy gold medal, wasn't she? And then didn't have it in Athens, I think it was, and then the next one she was injured. So
Yeah, the thing with Paula is though, you never got the sense that she'd ever really been in a race. She just used to run away from people.
they couldn't keep with her though, could they? They 2:15 at best, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
it's a
she'd be
fair play performance.
She'd get the B qualifying time for the men for the Olympics. She could actually make our male Olympic team with her PB, which is just insane. Like,
it's nuts, isn't it? And no one's ever got anywhere near it.
No, that's going to take some serious beating.
It really is. It's going to be one of those ones that stands like Sebastian Coe's 800-meter time, I think, for the rest of. Going to be like a 20-year world record.
Yeah, I mean that is 2:15 for a woman for the marathon, but they don't use her PB as the world record because it had male pacemakers.
Yeah,
which is a bit unfair because there weren't any women that could go fast enough to pace her. So,
yeah, it's really difficult, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, over to the men's race then. In New Plymouth, we had Rich Murray taking the win out. He had just a kilometre to erase a 26-second lead earned by a two-man bike breakaway, and he had taken it by 20 seconds in the end. So, how do you thoughts for him for the Olympics, mate? He's got to be one of the outside shouts for medal, hasn't he?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, I think that him and Mola are going to struggle unless they can.
You think so, huh?
Yeah, because I mean, if the Brownlees and Gomez are on top form and they make it all depends on. I think with Rio for the men, it's crucial on the swim because Gomez, the Brownlees are all going to work on the bike. Richard Varga, and the bike course is hilly. And if they get a slight gap on that course, I don't think a Chase Pack's going to catch up the lead group, and they're not going to want Mola and Murray to catch back up because they're huge threats on the run, and they could run faster than the Brownlees and Gomez and beat them. So I think that they're going to really take the swim out hard. It doesn't suit Murray and it doesn't suit Mola as much because it's sea swim, so rough, non-wet suit as well. So I think that they've got a bit of work to do, and like I say, with this one, without having like a lot of the faster swimmers like Varga missing, Gomez, the Brownlees, it's a brilliant result, but it's a different ball game when you've got a lot of people driving it on the swim and on the start of the bike, like we've seen the Brownlees do time and time again.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to this bike ride, isn't it, at the Olympics?
Certainly.
It being hard and hilly, it's going to suit the skinny little guys, and it couldn't be better scripted for the Brownlees and Gomez on the bike.
Yeah.
It's hard to see it being any different than the three of them getting away together, and everyone else having something to play for, I think.
Exactly, and you've got a lot of the other guys that are going to be, like Richard Varga, who's going to be up for working as well, because he's not going to want them to come up because they're going to beat him on the run. And he never knows what can happen. Whereas the women's, I think Gwen's going to make the front pack on the swim, and I think the only way she's not going to win is if the other nations or the other athletes team up against her and just take turns attacking, which you don't see in women's racing that often. I have no idea why, because they all know surely that they can't beat her on the run. They've got to do something else, and it just seems insane that they would do the same tactics every time to not beat her. They need to, and I think they should be trying that more often. Like I've seen it on the TV where they're working on the front of a group where Gwen's in, and Gwen's just sitting on the back, and it's like you would never get that in cycling. It's like it's like being in a breakaway.
Dead right.
Yeah, it'd be like being in a breakaway with Mark Cavendish sitting on the back, and you going, "Don't worry, Mark, about doing a turn. We'll take you to the final 200 meters." Like you're not going to beat him, are you, in the sprint? Like you need to attack him. You need to isolate him. So I think they need to do more of that.
So that's what we need. We need the British girls to go at it 1, 2, 3, don't we?
Definitely,
Keep having to
yeah.
go on the hills and break it up. I think the big question is though, it's like if you've only got 3 in your team in inverted commas, are you going to use 2 to try and attack to set one up? And we've
I
got
think you just use them all. They all take turns attacking because someone's got to chase them down. And if they make
yeah,
Gwen do the work, if yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of like the other nations need to almost work together a bit. Like they'll do an attack, and a couple of them will go with, and they need to let Gwen get on the front and take it down, or do a move to get on their wheel, like do a big effort to get on their wheel. Then as soon as she does that, another one goes over the top. Just basic road cycling tactics they need to do.
we need Joe Skipper coaching the women to make it an exciting race at Rio.
Yeah,
I
well,
love the idea of it. It would be a great race, wouldn't it, if people did
it's
that?
the only way they can beat her. It's
Yeah.
the only way. And if they don't do that, then they're just playing right into her hands because she's going to get off the bike and she's going to run away. She's going to knock a 31-minute 10K in probably, and that'll be it. See you later.
See you later. Right, we're going to shuffle over to the old UK duathlon scene now. So, the British Elite Championships were held this weekend down at were they down at Windsor?
Yeah.
Windsor Duathlon, yeah, they were. And I've got to say, man, this was the most impressive performance for me, I think, of the year so far. Second place. Well, first, we should say first place in the ladies was Emma Pallant, took it out, but second place for Michelle Dillon at 42 years old, I think.
I know.
First race back from retirement after having her spine fused together. You've got to give her respect for that, haven't you?
Oh, that's incredible. I can't believe that she managed to get that result off like just even like that long out, let alone like you say having her spine fused. Unbelievable, like absolutely incredible.
It says that she was a bit uncomfortable on the bike, and I think maybe they'd planned this between them because after the race she was saying that Emma Pallant kind of eased up on the first run to wait for her, and then they were gonna ride the bike hard together and try and get a breakaway, and they managed to do that. Then Emma raced away on the second run, but yeah, it just shows her class, doesn't it? Michelle Dillon was before your time, I think, mate, wasn't she? Really, you were still about 11 years old at the time when she was racing.
I remember seeing her in the magazines and seeing her on TV in the Olympics and on some of the races when I used to watch them. But yeah, I remember seeing her name, and she was always up there, wasn't she? And always in like 2:20 and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, she was consistently one of our best performers, and then she had a great race at Athens, and I think she was sixth at Athens or fifth, so she wasn't far outside the medals after having a really strong run there. So dead good to see her back racing again, and who knows where this might lead her to. I don't think athletes ever retire, mate. I think they just get injured and the gaps between their races get longer and longer. So it'd be great if she's not too sore after this one and she gets to race again.
Yeah, I mean, God, how much better could she get as well? Like with a few more races like on her belt and with a bit more training as well. Like, cause considering she's only come back, I saw that she said that it was only at the start of the winter she thought she'd give a bit of racing a go after going out on a couple of bike rides and enjoying it. So yeah, 5-6 months training, she's already getting second in the national champs.
Michelle Dillon, we salute you. We're going to award Michelle Dillon Helen's pat on the back of well done for this week for that.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
She gets that. So Emma Pallant in first in 102.57, Michelle Dillon in second in 104, and Gillian Palmer in third in 104.14. So great race in there. Over into the men's race, looks like it came down to a foot race off the bike there with Richard Horton taking it from Callum Johnson and Liam Lloyd. Have you ever raced any of the Windsor Duathlons, mate?
No, I've never done any of them.
I quite fancy going down and doing Windsor. It's one of the iconic races of the British scene, isn't it? And you've got all the photos here on Tri247 have got the big stately home in the background, and you can see it appealing to Americans to come over and race with that kind of British sort of stately home thing in the background, can't you?
Definitely, they love all that, don't they?
Yeah, and Legoland is nearby as well, so a little Wilby Junior would enjoy that as well. So maybe that's one for next year, hey?
Yeah, we'll get you signed up for it.
You and me, mate. We'll go down and work as a team next year.
You'll have to sign up for the elite one, see if you can do a Michelle Dillon. You've got twice as long to train as what she's had.
I think, mate, there's more chance of me getting back to T1 as everyone else is finishing there is of me making the pack in an elite race. Oh man, right. Well, look, that brings us to the end of our results for this week.
Rob, one last thing. What I did notice as well, one other race. There was a 70.3 in Malaysia,
Oh, right,
and
yeah.
Stuart Hayes got third place.
Stuart Hayes took third
Craig,
in Malaysia, didn't he? Behind Crowe.
that's the one, yeah.
So that's a really good result for him. And Stewie Hayes, of course, is Michelle Dillon's other half. So a good weekend of racing for them.
Yeah,
It'd be good to see Stewie stepping up and head into the World 70.3 champs and doing well there. He's another quality athlete, isn't he?
yeah. I looked at the splits for it as well, and he lost a lot of time on the run, but his run was better than what it was at the previous one. So I think he's obviously because of all the injuries, what he said he'd had with the run is getting there, and
Yeah,
with what he has done in the past, like with some of the fast times he's knocked out soon, it'll just be getting faster and faster, and I think he'll soon be up there competing for the win because he ran a 1:23 and I think Crowe ran a 1:17, so he can easily run miles faster than that. It's just a matter of time. So yeah, who knows? Maybe by the time the Worlds come round, he's going to qualify for the points he's racking up. So I think he'll definitely be racing there. He could
definitely.
he could be up there going for a top 10, definitely.
Well, he's an ex sort of fast 30-minute-ish type 10k runner, isn't he, as well? So he's got that pure leg speed. If he can hold his training together and not get injured or
That's it.
his injuries don't flare up again, he really could be that because he's definitely faster sort of on paper than someone like Crowe for sure.
That's it. Yeah, it's just he just needs to make sure he can keep training consistently and doesn't get injured. That's the key thing, isn't it?
It absolutely is, yeah. Good on you, Stewie. Great weekends racing in the Hayes Dillon household.
Yeah. Well done, Stewie.
Right now then, I had a scan around for a bit of triathlon news for this week. Now our news section is usually sponsored by wearebikehouse.co.uk, and if you're ever up this way up in the north, Joe, in your old stomping ground of Manchester University, you could do a lot worse than popping into Bike House, man. They're a great local bike shop that sells some cool stuff. Now we're sponsoring the news section, and one piece of news I did see was that Joe Skipper is now sponsored by Zone 3 wetsuits.
Yeah, I've been using them since I used them in New Zealand, and since January really I've been using them. I tried a few out at the end of last year, and that for me was the best one. So I went with them.
They make nice suits, don't they? A pal of mine bought one, and I was really impressed with it. He had one of those Vanquishers.
That's the one what I'm using. That is, and
is it?
Yeah, it just felt really good. It's fit like on my shoulders. It didn't feel tight or anything. It felt really flexible. Just felt like swimming with trunks on, whereas some of the wetsuits what you can use, they're just so tight on your shoulders, aren't they? You just feel them burning after like 200 or 300 meters.
It does make a massive difference, doesn't it, man? I've just upgraded my wetsuit, and mine was a good few years old at this point, but like you said, the difference is you just don't feel as though you've got something on. When you get one that's right for you and it fits you properly and it's made well, and that neoprene's the really thin, so you got like that 1 mil rubber stuff around the shoulders that just feels like you haven't got anything on. It's awesome, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what you want. You want it really as like thin as possible there and as flexible, so you get maximum movement.
Cool stuff. So there you go. You can check out Zone 3 wetsuits and look like Joe Skipper.
hopefully swim a bit faster than me though.
Joe, there's hundreds of people out there who dream about swimming half as fast as you, my man. All right, listen, one of those people, in fact, who's dreaming about swimming as fast as you at the moment is our interview of the week for this week. Now, I was dead lucky that I managed to I feel like this is a bit of a scoop, actually. We've got an interview here with Matt Bottrill, who is multiple-time British time trial champion and is making the move this year over into duathlon and triathlon. He's going to race some 70.3s later in the year. So we caught up with him. We've got a nice chat with him, and there's some interesting stuff to learn here regarding someone who's stepping into swimming for the first time, and also obviously his knowledge of stuff to do with time trialing and aerodynamics and the stuff he's bringing to the sport from his time trialing background. So let's go over to our interview over with Matt Bottrill. Right, we're very happy to have Matt Bottrill joining us. Matt, how are you today, mate?
Very well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me along.
Oh, it's great, man. Thank you very much for coming on. You're the big news in the UK triathlon and duathlon scene at the minute. So I feel like we've got a bit of a scoop here, like real journalists getting you on.
Yeah, I feel honoured you saying that. Yeah, kind of to say.
So listen, let's start by asking, you've just done your first triathlon this weekend at East Leek, haven't you, and got second place. Talk us through your day, because I'm sure loads of people listening will be thinking, oh, I've got my first one coming up in a few weeks as well.
Yeah, the day itself, I've never been, it's probably the most nervous I've been in quite a few years. yeah, obviously the pool swim, that was the thing that I was most nervous about. But yeah, it went pretty well, to be honest. I've got a lot of work to do on transitions and stuff, but yeah, that was a bit of an eye opener. But yeah, all in all, yeah, it went well. You know,
So listen, what I'll do is we'll cover a bit of the backstory here because obviously you're a big name in the British time trialing and now in the duathlon scene, and we've got listeners all over the world who might not ever have heard of you because time trialing is pretty niche sport at best, isn't it? Really? Excuse me. So I'll introduce you a little bit by saying have you got over 30 national titles at time trialing? Is that correct?
yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Pretty humble guy as well. I can
Yeah,
tell.
I don't know. I sort of never. I know it's probably people think I'm mad, but I don't really care. I know that, like, the bits that mean the most to me. I remember that, but without being big-headed, you sort of forget. What you keep doing. So
30 national championships is pretty big deal at time trialing, and obviously I know there's a lot of big name triathletes who are a little bit nervous about coming head to head with you this year in races at 70.3 distance. Have said to me on the quiet, I'm gonna have to raise my game a bit here because Matt Bottrill's racing at 70.3 Staffordshire this year, so people are worried, mate, despite you being nervous in a sprint triathlon.
oh yeah, no, that's good. I suppose that's it keeps people on the toes. It'll keep me on my toes as well. I've got, obviously I've got a lot. Yeah, I've got a lot to do yet. So yeah, one step at a time, I suppose.
So a bit of history from your time trialing. I like throwing numbers out there because I'm a bit of a numbers and stats geek, and I was having a nosy through your profile on, I think it was on the Giant website earlier, who sponsor you with a rather lovely bike. It's got to be said.
Yeah.
And some of your PBs. Let's go through them. 10 mile time trial. What's your PB for that?
17:40.
25?
45, 43. So that's like
Wow.
the competition record. That's like the fastest that anyone's ever been.
That's amazing. 50?
Well, 134, 43.
This is insane. And go on, just for fun, your 100-mile time.
I've only ever done, I think I've done 200s, and that was when I won the national. I did, was it 340 something? So that's not like, it's not rapidly fast, but yeah. I won the nationals with it, so that was good enough.
There's people up and down the country shaking their head and doing the maths and going, that's 55 minutes for 40k 4 times back to back, and he doesn't think it's that fast.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, man.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, so you're right up there basically in terms of your prowess on the bike. Overall competition record winner for 25 miles. That's faster than Wiggins. That's faster than Boardman.
Yeah, and obviously the 10. That's like the second fastest. That I think just like Alex Dowsett has been faster. So yeah.
Pretty incredible. Were you ever, I mean, before you move over to triathlon and duathlon, were you ever tempted by sort of going over onto the continent and trying your hand with a pro team?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think everyone seems to forget that was what my basis was. I basically started cycling at the age of 12, made the progression through like road racing, rode for Great Britain. I was one of the first people that got lottery funding from like World Class Performance. I did 6 months in France, a year with the British, Great Britain team. So I've done all that kind of stuff. I would just, but ultimately when I had my children and stuff, that's when I turned to time trialing. But if people look back in the record books, they'll see I've won a lot of road races as well. But people, they see what you're doing.
It's the recent stuff, I suppose, that sticks in people's heads, isn't it?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit, I suppose.
Yeah, you sure have, that's for certain. And I think something that's always stuck out in my mind as well is that all the time you were doing these amazing times as a time trialist, you were working as a postman as well. So it's not like you're sitting with your feet up all day to recover, is it?
Not at all. But it was ultimately, I used to my training consisted of, it was 8 hours a week. I averaged 8 hours a week, but it was just quality training. It was full on. So that's ultimately, I achieved that with a family and a full-time job. So just maximising that training time that was, really important.
Yeah.
Having that desire to win, I suppose, that's the biggest thing. Like we all talk about training, but most people forget how mentally strong that you need to be. And that's what I've always sort of had, that in a strength.
Yeah. And people as well forget, I think they hear the number 8 hours and go, well, that's not much. But actually, if you looked at it in terms of a marathon runner, that's sort of a 65 to 70 mile a week kind of time zone that you run in, which is a serious amount of endurance training every week, isn't it?
So, there's no recovery rise in that. A recovery day is just like a rest day, but ultimately it was just like quality training.
Yeah.
So.
And you've obviously got that kind of body that absorbed it and bounced back quickly and could get out there and do it again and again.
No, that's one of the key things for me. It is I can recover. I don't ultimately I don't need much sleep and I recover pretty quick. So.
You're almost the exact opposite of me.
Yeah, you need a bit of shut eye.
Definitely, yeah. Especially with the little one here at the minute. God, it's killing us. So listen, you've had this recent move over, and you announced you're going to move over to triathlon and duathlon, and then obviously everybody knew you were going to be a lightning fast biker, but the question was how's your run going to be? And kudos to you, man. You're a decent, solid runner as well, aren't you? Did you do any running as part of your training when you were riding, or is it just a recent thing?
Yeah, you say that, but I've had a lot of stick. But a lot of people have said, "Oh, you're not a very good runner, are you?" So that's quite nice that you've said that. But
it's pretty sour grapes, man. If someone tells you you're not a decent runner,
I think especially I'm not sure. I think a lot of people, especially in like the cycling world, probably thought I was going to come into this and just because they used to me winning. So, and then when they see my times, they were like, "Oh yeah, you're not that good at running." I'm like, "But yeah, I'm really happy with this." So no, basically I finished racing. I did like the amateur worlds, the back end of September. That was my last race where I finished second. About 7 days later, I just started training. So it was ultimately, started. It was October time, middle of October, I would have said. So yeah, I had to learn to swim, run. Pretty full on.
Have you managed to stay pretty injury free on the running?
Yeah, I picked up one niggle, but I just think that came down to a lack of, core and stability work that I wasn't doing and strength work. But ultimately, I've tried to keep on top of that now. And touch wood, I've been.
It's the conditioning work, isn't it, to keep your body in shape so you can actually run is the most difficult thing. It doesn't seem to be as important on the bike in that, I guess because it's not impacting you as much hitting the ground, but certainly for the running, the conditioning work is pretty important.
It took me 2 months just to take the impact. It's like I'd run one day and it'd probably take me 3 days to recover. I'd say it's just about now, I could do, 2 or 3 consistent runs. And I can take the impact. So, but it's hard going, that is for sure.
Yeah, man. And how's the swimming coming along then? Talk us through your progression, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to relate to this coming from considering you don't really swim to try and get into triathlon. How's that been?
Yeah, that was really hard. It's just like I started off and just turned up at the pool and I could hardly do 2 laps. I've always been able to swim, but I'd not done it for like years. So, but that's just been so much technique, and ultimately it just came about. I've met a few people now that have really been guiding me, and that's made a massive difference because it's all to do with it is that technique, isn't it? But I can relate to it because we like the cycling. It's all about aerodynamics. So I've been trying to master the technique before I'm not trying to get into too many bad habits. And but I've got a long way to go. I've still got to do some open water swimming, so that's going to be another eye opener.
It's always good when you see all these pictures on the Ironman website of people swimming in crystal blue waters over in like Mexico or somewhere, and then you come to do a sprint triathlon in the UK and the water's brown and you can't see your hand in front of your face when it goes in.
No, that would be the ultimate dream, wouldn't it? But looking like that so far.
So is the first big race for you on the season horizon this year? Is it the Staffordshire 70.3?
Well, I was going to do Stafford, but then I was speaking to Will Clark about this. Like Stafford's like my local race, and I always knew it was going to be like, it was going to take 2 years to fully adapt. But I really want to do, when I go to that race, I really want to say, right, I want to race this. But so now my first goal is going to be the Outlaw 70.3. Again, a local one.
Yeah.
You know, I really want to. I don't know what I'm capable of doing. I don't know how I'm going to handle the swim or anything, but I do know I want to, you know, go there and race it. So that's going to be my first goal, and then from there it's Wimbledon, is it?
Oh, you're going down to do that one, are you?
Yeah,
Down the next
everyone
more?
says
Yeah.
how hard the bike course is there, so I'm hoping that might play into my favour.
It is. That is a great bike course, man. There's not a single meter of flat on the whole thing. You're going either uphill or downhill. It's magic.
Yeah, so you know, I went and watched Stafford last year, and I was just blown away for it. And that was the moment I knew I was going to make this transition.
Yeah.
You know, it is a local race, and ultimately, I'd love to go there and do. Yeah, I want to do really well.
So is it one you might do the year after then, you
Yeah,
think? Kind
definitely.
of get
I
yourself
wanted to do it
icy.
this year, but then I was thinking, right, there's Outlaw. Let's focus on this, and then, yeah, make this transition, see what my body can take, and see if I can go there and, you know, yeah, really go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. And listen, I've got to ask you about training for the bike. Obviously, we've got you on. You're probably the premier biker in probably in the world in age group triathlon at this point, without having done more than your first triathlon. What are some of the things that you think triathletes can learn from you coming from a time trialing background? What
I
have you
think
seen in terms of mistakes that people are making that you think,
the
oh well, there's some low hanging fruit
Yeah,
there?
the biggest thing is I think everyone like from what I see from like it's just the aerodynamic point of view of stuff. Like obviously I've grown up with the reason I got to where I was is like people working with like Simon Smart, and that's all about like it's the aerodynamics. I think people are just they're a bit too obsessed with numbers, where ultimately power and pacing come before that, and I think that's the biggest thing that most triathletes are probably making wrong. It's just you've got to optimize aerodynamics because that overweighs power, if that makes sense. Because then obviously if you can conserve that energy, then you're going to run faster and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's talk about a few of the things. I know that you worked a lot with Simon Smart and Drag to Zero, and you were in the wind tunnel a lot. What are some of the things that you learnt that maybe surprised you, and you were like, "Oh well, I didn't think that would affect us in this way," but
It's just that I've told that it's holding that position. Like clothing, like the research that's gone into clothing. You know, it's unbelievable. It's like the stuff that we've done with like Endura, for example, like that. Yeah, it's amazing. But if you can save a watt here, a watt there, it soon adds up to massive gain. Especially, you start looking at like Ironman distances. So it is. It's just there's so much I've learned from the wind tunnel. How to hold my head. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And then turning that into like a race situation. How you pace a race, when to use the aerodynamics, and all that kind of stuff. So
so when would you choose to use aerodynamics then? When would they be most?
it's
When would you get the most bang for your buck from
yeah,
it?
but it's just always pacing's always about working out where the wind's coming from. So ultimately, you always want to, it sounds pretty obvious, but you always want to make your hardest effort going into the wind. But in a tailwind, then you've just got to optimize that position. It's thinking about, holding your shoulders in, holding the best position, and yeah, just using pacing in a totally different way. So there's a lot you can do to conserve energy. So and that's
Okay.
ultimately what I'm having to do. And that's probably why I've got the gains that I have on the bike, because I've had all these years of knowing how to conserve energy. So
Have you had experiences then where, I mean, obviously, without revealing any of your power numbers and things like that, where you've maybe your power hasn't increased over a year, but your speeds and your times have improved massively just because of increased aerodynamics?
definitely, 2014, that I wasn't the most powerful I was. That's when I won everything. Uh, I set all these competition records and stuff. But it was just a matter that the position on the bike was so dialed in. The clothing I was using was it was unbelievable, and it was just learning. I also learned how to pace, and that's what I'm having to bring into. It's like doing this in triathlon. I think people have said to me, "Oh, you're taking it easy on the run, and then you just batter in the bike," but I've not done that once, you know. It's just
Yeah.
I'm not one of these people that just turn up to, you know. It's not. This isn't just about me coming here and battering the bike. It's ultimately it's about winning at some point.
Yeah. And I think people forget as well when they see your bike times. I mean, we mentioned earlier you've ridden 340 for 100 miles. So if you turn out a 55-minute 40k, which for most people is, blowing their minds how fast that is on the bike, for you that's the first quarter of 100.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it isn't you battering the bike at all, is it?
Not
That's
at
10
all.
minutes off your personal
No,
best.
not at all. You know, it's like the races that I've done. If I wanted to conserve energy, I could go a lot faster in them races, but I've not done that, you know, and I don't plan on doing that. It'd be very easy just to come into this and set some, you know, just break every bike split that, you know, I wanted to do, but it's not about that for me. It's about making this transition, respecting the sport, and just working out what it, you know, what's it going to take to make it to the, you know, onto the podium and to some of these bigger races and stuff. But I'm loving it, yeah. Yeah.
Now I know you're making your living now from coaching, and Team Bottrill has been all over social media recently. You've got 70 athletes or so racing for your team. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, obviously, yeah, I've been doing this coaching now. It's been over 2 years, you know. I've coached a number of people to like national titles and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously we did like the work with Tim O'Bratt for Ironman Roth, myself and Bob Tobin, and I thought, I now, you know, actually I'm quite good at this coaching. So, but yeah, that
So listen, for people who don't know about Timo's result there, tell them the effect that yours and Bob's coaching had on Timo.
yeah, and obviously Timo had been trying to win Roth for like a number of years, hadn't he? You know, and he
Yeah.
almost like he always used to get into that, you know, that last 10k on the run, and he'd always just blow. But so ultimately, it was making him stronger on the bike, so he could conserve more energy. You know, when he come to the running, so the training was almost, yeah, it was pretty intense. It was harder than what the race was ever going to be. So yeah, we pushed him to the limit almost. But it, you know, and the effect of it worked. And obviously, he came into the last 10k, and that's when he, instead of flagging, he just had those reserves because he was holding himself back, you know, on the, you know, on the bike split. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it was amazing, you know, and that's when everything sort of changed for me. I thought, right, this is what I want to do, and I love what I do. You know, it's not just a job; it's a passion, and that was same as setting the whole thing with like Team Bottrill up. It was, it's just something I've always wanted to do, you know, and then it was, you know, it's great. It's just nice to put something back into the sport. You know, it's awesome.
What sort of, I mean, maybe you're not going to be able to answer this, but what sort of power numbers was Timo putting out in terms of like percentage of FTP? What did he ride at Roth? Have you got any
Oh,
idea?
yeah, it was over 80, you know. Yeah, I think it was about 85, 90, so it was pretty intense. But
Pretty high ride,
yeah,
yeah.
ultimately that's what you know you want to be able to. That's the magic number, isn't it, for Ironman racing? But yeah, but we just pushed him so hard in training that it was
And was that easier than he'd been going before at sort of 85 to 90%?
yeah, yeah. I think the biggest thing, yeah, yeah, it was. So I just think
Amazing.
overcooking it, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And, talking of Roth, we've got to ask this because Roth has got the biggest sort of, the history of fast bike splits. Are you tempted by going out there yourself and having a crack and having a dabble at the Ironman distance
that's
one
a
day?
good question, and it's something. Obviously, this, you know, I've got this thing. Yeah, yeah, I'd love to. Do you know what I mean? But it's just whether I can commit that training to doing it. I know what it would take to get there. I'm not really, you know, at this present moment, I wouldn't be in position to do that. You know, put the hours into the training because obviously, you know, setting up this business and everything else. But I'd, yeah, that my ultimate aim is to in the next 5 years is to do like an Ironman. But I'd love to be able to do it while I was still, you know, I still had that fitness.
Yeah.
And yeah, going to Roth would be pretty awesome, you know.
I think there's loads of people, mate, despite what you said earlier about respecting the distance and respecting the sport. And, you know, I give you a lot of kudos for that. There's an awful lot of triathletes out there who are thinking, I'd love to see Matt Bottrill go to Roth this year and just lay it down on the bike.
This year, like, my plan is for the next 2 years, make the transition into 7.3, you know, try and see what my body can take. Then ultimately, you know, I'm going to be 40 then. So maybe it's something to do for my 40th.
There you go. We've got it on record, Matt.
Yeah. I think the seeds
Matt's
planted.
40th birthday present to himself is the bike course record at Roth.
Yeah, you know, the seeds planted, but yeah, I'd love to be able to do one Ironman and ultimately make it to Kona one day. But I probably only want to do it once or twice.
Yeah, it's a long day, man.
Oh, God,
it's a long day out there. Hey.
Yeah, it's pretty epic, isn't it? You know.
So we talked a little bit earlier about your history of training, sort of, you know, no junk miles, train intensely. I recover by having a day off. I do 8 hours a week and the work's all quality. And I love listening to that because it's, you know, our philosophies on that are very, very similar in that the quality is what counts and it's not the number of hours that you put in.
Yeah.
What are some of the kind of, you know, I'd be doing our listeners a disservice if I didn't ask, what are some of the secret bike sessions that you think people could be doing that would improve their time trial?
Thing for any person that wants to improve on the bike is sweet spot training. I don't know if there's something that people are familiar with in triathlon, but that's the biggest area that you can push, you know, like your threshold power or building up to like doing blocks of like an hour. You know, if you can sustain that, then ultimately you're going to be bulletproof. And it's just cutting out the junk. Because most people that have been doing triathlon or racing in general, they've been doing it for a number of years. So they've already got that base there. We all know you need base miles and etc. But ultimately, sweet spots training is the key area for improvement, in my opinion. You know, and it's what I use it quite a bit with athletes. But ultimately,
so with sweet spot, I think my understanding of it through the power books and things that I've studied, we're looking at sort of the 90% of FTP plus or minus a few percent, right?
Exactly. And if you train in that area, you know, start training in short blocks of, say, you know, if you haven't got great fitness, start at 10 minutes, doing like 3 blocks of 10 minutes, then building up to 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But once you get to that stage and you could sustain it for an hour, then that's you're bulletproof. And that's just one key area that I would say to work in, read up on it, and you can get some big gains from it. Do you know what I mean? But ultimately, the way to improve is you've got to train to how you want to race, and that's, you know, how you make the biggest improvement. Look at where your weaknesses are and what your strengths are, but you've got to train those weaknesses. And that's when a good coach comes into play, isn't it? You know, they can say, right, actually, you need to do this session, because 9 times out of 10, if you're self-coached or, you know, you're reading up on stuff, you're going to take the easy option.
That's right. You do the stuff you want to do, and the coach is there going, actually, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to do this instead.
Exactly. But that's why I'm still coaching. I still work with Bob for my cycling, because it's not that I can't do this training. It's the fact that I want to be pushed. I want him to say, right, you need to do this session because you're going to get this effect from it. And then I want to be accountable for what I'm doing. And I think that's the same with a lot of people. You need to know, if you're time limited, then you need to be specific on where you're training. And that's how you'll make the biggest gains, really.
So I know Bob just a little bit from back in the day on the TriTalk forum. It was before he even set up cyclepowermeters.com. He was on there all the time, him and his missus, and he was one of the big sort of, you know, this is crikey, way back in the day, 2004, 2005, and he was always pushing this idea of power metering, and he was one of the first people I remember listening to and thinking, I've got to investigate this power meter thing. There's obviously something in it. Yeah. Then the next year we set cycle power meters.
I think he was the first person in the UK to buy a power meter. So
is that right?
Yeah, I think it was something like, I think he said about 10 grand at the time. It was an insane amount of money. But yeah, he was sort of the person that, he was the first person in the UK to use power. But it was just Bob giving me that chance you know, how I met Bob was I'd finished third at like the Nationals for goodness knows how many years, and I was about 2.5 minutes behind, you know, winning it. And then
What distance is this over?
this was over 25 miles.
Okay, so 2.5 minutes over
Yeah,
25.
and I just at the stage thinking, right, you know, I'm this far down. I thought I'd train hard, but I just didn't know what to do. And then, you know, I was reading up on power, and just, you know, obviously made a Google search, found cycle power meters, got in touch with Bob. How do you use a power meter? You know, what would you advise? So, yeah, I brought a power meter, and then I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I emailed back Bob and said, look, you know, this is what I want to do. Obviously, I want to be national champion. Is there any chance that you consider coaching me? And ultimately, he said yes. And ever since then, you know, it's gone from strength to strength, really.
Brilliant. And we'll give a good plug out for cyclepowermeters.com here, because Bob's a good guy and he's got a lot of good advice. If anyone hasn't got a power meter, people might not know this, but you can rent them through Bob. Bob's like he's like the gateway drug dealer, isn't he?
Yeah, for power meters. If you've got a question about power meters, that boy knows it. Yeah, he's awesome.
Half my athletes started their power meter career by renting a power tap wheel off Bob Tobin, and
yeah.
they're like, oh, I've got to buy something now. So yeah, go check that out. Oh man, brilliant. So listen, thanks very much for coming on the show, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you're very busy with your coaching and with your training and stuff.
Thank you. It's it's a pleasure to come on here. You know, it's nice to be nice to touch base. You know, I read about all this stuff, and I'm pretty addicted to tuning into the show now. I'm like, who's on next?
Oh, great! Thanks, man. That's very kind of you.
It's nice to, because at the minute I haven't got a clue who anybody is, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'll tune in. So thank you.
Everybody knows who you are, mate, that's for sure, and I think a few more will by the time this season's out. So maybe you'll come back on next year when you've got some results under your belt and talk us through the season, hey?
Definitely. Hopefully, yeah, we'll have something to talk about. I hope so.
Right, one last thing, man. Give us a plug for your coaching website. What's the web address if people want to go and find out more?
If you want to get, our website is it's www.mattbottrillperformancecoaching.com. So yeah, that's our website.
Great. I'll put a link to that up in the show notes on the webpage from this as well. So if you want to check out Matt Bottrill Performance Coaching, is it .com or .co.uk?
.com, yeah.
Great, .com. All right, Matt, listen, I'm going to leave you to get back on that turbo trainer, mate. Thanks very much for your time.
Cheers, Rob. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. All right there, Joe. There's the interview with Matt Bottrill. What do you think? Do you fancy racing him?
Yeah. I'd love to actually race him in a triathlon and just see how my bike split would compare to him. Like,
it'd be a good race with you two together, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like his times in the time trials are amazing. So yeah, it would be good to see how I do stack up to him.
Yeah. It was interesting as well, the amount of stuff he talked about. A lot of his gains being down to like position and aerodynamics and the new skin suit that Endura make. I know you've got one of those as well, and I wanted to kind of ask you about that a little bit. Do you do a lot of this stuff as well these days with you sort of changing with your position and working out different sort of little aerodynamic tricks and wins you can find?
Yeah, I'll try and like tinker with. For me, I've been doing a lot of my testing when I have done it has been on just a flat stretch of road with like really quiet for cars, and I've had my dad there to help me, so we've done like adjustments, and then I've like timed it from a certain start point and finish point. But I haven't been in a wind tunnel or on a velodrome or done anything as in a proper controlled environment. So I think mine's a bit old school. Whereas
it'd be interesting to do that, wouldn't it? To get in the wind tunnel and
definitely. That's one thing what I really want to do this year, because then you can kind of get some definitive answers, can't you, on whether or not this position's faster than that position. And you hear some of the stories about how many watts some people save, and it's huge. So yeah, I want to try and get in there at some point this year if I can.
Well, there was news that Boardman are opening a wind tunnel, and they sponsor you with bikes, don't they? So presumably, man, when that gets opened, I don't know when it's due to be open, but
it's supposed to be open soon.
It's not going to be far away, is it? So it'd be great to get you in there and see what gains you could make.
Yeah, definitely. I hopefully will be able to get in there when it does open. I know at the launch they said it was going to be about 3 or 4 months. That was in November. So that would take it to like February, March. Obviously, and it's still not open yet, but it must be pretty soon.
Pretty imminent,
Yeah,
mustn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Cool stuff. Good. Right, so listen, we've got a nomination here for Age Grouper of the Week. It's been sent through by a lady called Faye Shaw, and she said, I want to nominate my friend Matt Mills, who's at Matt Mills on Twitter. He's finished 15th place in his first 70.3 out at Putrajaya, which is Malaysia, isn't it?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the same one we've just talked about with Hazy. She said it was 34 degrees on the run, man.
I wouldn't fancy that, and it would be really humid as well, wouldn't it? It'd be like Kona.
Yeah. It'd be disgustingly hot and humid out there. So well done, Matt. That's your nomination, and we're awarding you Age Group of the Week. Thanks, Faye, for sending it in. If you've got any nominations for Age Group of the Week, you can send them through to Twitter. We're at Cup of Try on Twitter, or Facebook.com/Cup of Try on there as well. Or you can just email them through to Coach Rob Wilby at oxygenaddict.com. All right, mate. Well, we're nearly at the point of wrapping up this episode this week. We're going to do an interview in a minute, and then we're going to put the interview out next week. So Joe will be our interview of the week for next week. But just before we do that, I want to give you all a heads up. OxygenAddict.com are going to be running another webinar. The webinar is going to be on Tuesday, the 19th of April. And this time we're focusing on improving your bike power. So if you've got any questions about the best kind of bike training you should be doing to improve your bike power, and this is going to hold true for Sprint Olympic, Half Ironman and Ironman distance, I'm going to be going through some of the training sessions that I give out to my athletes, some of the differences that I do over the different distances that people race, and some other tips and tricks that are going to help make you faster over the bike distance no matter what distance you're racing. So that's the 19th of April. It's going to be available for a download and to view afterwards if you can't make it. All you need to do is go over and sign up, and the web address is team.oxygenaddict.com/power webinar. Now, you don't need the www for this one, so it's just team.oxygenaddict.com/power webinar, all one word. Put your email address in there, and we'll give you advance notice when it's coming up. We'll send you over a link you can click to join the webinar, and if you don't make it at the time it's put out live, we'll send you a link afterwards to watch that power webinar. So, Joe, if you're looking for some tips on how to improve your biking, I know you struggle with that, mate.
Yeah, yeah. I might have to sign up.
You might need some help, mate, getting those aero bars on the right way around, eh?
Yeah.
Here's the first top tip: don't fly with a certain airline.
Oh yeah, I had someone.
Don't name and shame. Don't do it. I'll have the legal department
I
on
won't,
me.
but I had someone send me a Facebook message actually today saying that they got stung with a cost of £43 a kilo flying to South Africa with them, even though they got told that they could take the bike at the travel agent, and they end up having to pay an extra £200.
Oh, breaks your heart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Right. Well, we'll go into all of this with our interview with you next week. But listen, until next week, thanks very much for tuning in and listening, everybody. Joe Skipper, thank you very much for coming along and being our co-host this week.
Thanks for having me on the show, Rob. It's great to be back.
No, it's good to have you on, man. You've got a good knowledge of the sport, and some of your analysis you've done today has been really good, mate. We've really appreciated it. So listen, until next week, our sponsors have been oxygenaddict.com, we are bikehouse.co.uk, and triathlonbox.co.uk. You can sign up on iTunes or Stitcher to get us delivered straight into your phone every week. So go and subscribe over there. And one last thing. If you think you can help out the show by being a patron, if you click the link on the side of the webpage, then you can sign up to be a patron and pay £2 a month, £5 a month, or £10 a month, which goes to help support the running of this show every week. So until next week, thanks very much for joining us, and we will speak to you again soon. Thanks now.